The Air Force kept meticulous score of every kill during the Korean War, except, apparently, one. A Mustang pilot claims to have downed a jet, yet his victory never appeared on any official record. The moment was real enough for witnesses, but invisible to history. Was it a bureaucratic miss, or was the event fabricated? The answer may lie not in what exists, but in what's missing. By the time jet aircraft filled the Korean skies, propeller-driven fighters like the P-51 had already been pushed into a supporting role. The Mustang's laminar flow wing and Packard-built Merlin engine had once represented the height of aviation progress, but against the MiG-15, with its swept wings, a Elysian 5K one-turbojet, and a climb rate almost double, the piston fighter had become a relic. Yet one account insists that the balance reversed, even if only for seconds. It centered on Major John Yingling and his aircraft Miss D, a P-51 that had flown more missions than most of its peers. According to Yingling's own statement, his Mustang met a MiG head-on near the Yalu River, and the improbable happened. He brought it down. The story's technical outline never changed much. Yingling described a low-level rail interdiction run followed by a climb-out, when a MiG suddenly appeared coming directly at him from high 12 o'clock. The two aircraft closed at a combined speed of nearly 1,000 miles per hour. He reacted on instinct, squeezing the trigger for a short, controlled burst. He claimed to see hits along the MiG's fuselage before the enemy pilot ejected. His wingman reported the parachute, and that was apparently the end of it. But no gun camera film exists, no radio intercept confirmed the crash, and no wreckage was ever cataloged. Only a handful of witnesses remembered it. Veteran recollections like Yingling's often show a precision that suggests truth. They describe deflection angles, range cues, and tracer spacing consistent with known weapon ballistics. Yingling's account fits that pattern. But formal credit required more than convincing recollection. At that time, victory confirmation relied on a strict three-part process. Gun camera film provided visual evidence of strikes. Ground observers, radar operators, or adjacent units supplied corroboration. Finally, intelligence channels, mainly intercepted radio or post-war enemy records, provided external affirmation. Without those, claims remained probable and were eventually dropped. Why an event so dramatic, if genuine, never entered that process remains unresolved. The Mustang's armament of 6.50 caliber machine guns lacked the destructive signature of a cannon-equipped jet, which may have complicated analysis of film or debris. Identification could also blur at closing speeds typical of jet combat. There's another layer of irony here. The same bureaucracy that once inflated tallies in wartime propaganda became inflexible when pilots faced faster, deadlier opponents under new rules of air engagement. In that environment, anecdote, however detailed, rarely survived paperwork. Major Yingling's missing record became what historians later called a ghost entry, the kind of blank line that draws researchers back to the archives again and again. His story continues not because documents support it, but because memory itself resists erasure. Even without official confirmation, Miss D lingers in discussion groups and veterans' reunions as a reminder of how human recollection can preserve what institutions erase. And that leads directly to the next question: whether history is built more by what the records contain or by what they quietly omit. Every aerial victory by an American pilot, whether a single burst at altitude or a drawn-out chase, appears somewhere in the Air Force's post-war summaries. None of them make space for John Yingling. His name, aircraft number, or claimed MiG date are missing from the full catalog of combat results. Researchers have examined the 1973 and 1988 master lists, often called the telephone book editions, which compile kills from the First World War through Vietnam. Even there, not a single line links his P-51, Miss D, with a MiG-15. The omission is striking precisely because those compilations were designed to leave nothing out. The recording process of the 1950s was deliberate and layered. Squadrons kept daily operational logs listing takeoff times, ordnance, fuel loads, and contact reports. Wing headquarters transformed those into group after-action summaries, which fed into theater reports before statistical analysts in Washington tabulated final totals for publication. By the time figures reached print, they had survived multiple checks by intelligence officers and clerical staff whose careers often depended on numerical accuracy. That Yingling's sortie leaves no trace in the system points to more than a clerical slip. Official historians stress that genuine gaps in those records are extremely rare. During the early Cold War, aerial victory lists doubled as morale instruments. They appeared in press briefings and internal newsletters, illustrating the jet age balance of power. An American propeller-driven fighter downing a Soviet-type jet would have fit perfectly within that propaganda structure. Public recognition of an event like that would serve both political and psychological value. Its total absence therefore resists any simple explanation of censorship. The more conventional explanations are procedural. Radar coverage near the Yalu was incomplete, limiting external confirmation. Identification errors were frequent in the thin light above the river, where metallic reflections confused observers. Or Yingling's case may represent a post-war reconstruction drawn from multiple missions compressed into a single vivid memory. Even sympathetic analysts concede the anomaly. There is no administrative trail, no surviving intercept, and no mention of recovered MiG debris. For a system that functioned on physical documentation, film reels, plotted radar screens, serial numbers, that void carries weight of its own. Negative evidence in archival work can be decisive. When meticulous registries omit an event, the absence becomes data. Each missing logbook, each blank line across several generations of summaries, signals that the claim never crossed the formal threshold for proof. Yingling's alleged victory appears to fall within that category. The conclusion does not require that the pilot fabricated his story, only that the institutions tasked with validating it found nothing admissible. That is why his missing line holds interest long after the rest of the Korean War's combat tallies settled into history. It exposes how easily individual experience can drift outside documentary structure, and how myths begin not with invention, but with the quiet spaces created by record-keeping itself. From that silence, larger patterns of aviation memory start to form, inviting a closer look at how those patterns keep returning despite the discipline of the archives. Some aerial victories stay alive for decades even when no record supports them, while others, carefully logged, verified, and archived, fade almost immediately. The endurance of an unconfirmed kill like Yingling's rests less on evidence and more on how the story performs memory itself. Veterans often repeated their accounts with such precision of tone and gesture that the retelling became a second act of identity. Each description of tracer fire or engine strain recreated the moment rather than explained it. In that sense, the story functioned as an assertion of belonging to an earlier age of flight, when eyesight and instinct mattered more than electronic control. Within the dwindling ranks of piston engine pilots who transitioned into a jet world, Yingling's claim gained symbolic weight. His version of events suggested that skill could